Okay, what I'm going to do is to show you how to change a blown fuse wire in a Wylex fuse. This is a very common unit that you get in the UK. It's semi-enclosed and it's rewirable. So on the ends you've got screws. You can see the last bit of wires on each end that I fitted last time. You'll need a pack of fuse wire. I only need the 5 amp in this case because I'm replacing a, you can't see that very well, but it's a 5 amp fuse. The white dot also helps indicate that in the UK, and the 5 amp fuse is typically for the lights, and exactly that. The lights went out when one of these GU10 halogen bulbs in my kitchen blew. Very frustrating because it happens a lot. So first thing to do is to get rid of any old wire. It's important to make sure that you do get rid of the ends, because what you do not want to do is have at any point a stage where you've got more than a single piece of wire, the 5 amp wire, bridging the two contacts. Obviously if you do that, 2 pieces of 5 amp wire gives you 10 amps. So I can see that's clear. I also have a torch in which I can shine my bright light into there. I can make sure it's absolutely no bits remaining, and I can now get myself a nice piece of 5 amp wire off this card. If I can find the end. This is going to be fun. I should have cut this perhaps. Right, here we go, the end's on the other side, that's my problem. I always have a much longer piece. This is not expensive stuff, so I'm going to have, you know, almost twice the length. I can trim this later. So a pair of scissors, you can almost snap this 5 amp wire with your hands, but I recommend not, because you're stretching it, and stretching it could potentially make it weaker. So I cut it with a pair of household scissors. I don't need them anymore to the end. You literally now thread this 5 amp wire through your fuse. So there's a bit of white ceramic fuse going on here. Part of the fuse, sorry, in the middle of this is ceramic. I'm not doing a very good job of threading this, and I've already bent it in such a way that it's come through the middle, so I can now re-aim this. And I can just about see this coming through the other side. I'm sure you can't see this very well at all. Even though it's a HD video recorder, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not very clear to you. Okay, so that is now definitely through. Again, a single piece. You need to be quite careful to make sure that you wrap the wire a little bit around the screws that are going to grip this. So I usually do a little loop around like this. I do this on both ends. So I actually wrap it around the thread of the screw to have it reasonably secure when I actually tighten this up. Now you'll see there's a lot of slack here. Now the reason I don't pull it taut, again I was talking about not stretching the wire earlier, because when I tighten these screws, what's inevitably going to happen on at least one of these screws is I risk it biting into the wire that I've just threaded through the fuse. Here I am just tightening it very gently, just enough to bite the wire, don't need it too much more. And if it does wind around the screw, it's going to pull the wire as it's doing on this end, and I've got to be very careful it doesn't pull it so taut that it actually snaps the wire. Now I can still feel there with my screwdriver tip that it's got some flex. You can see it's not too tight. Now these long links that I've got left over, which I had convenience for me to make this wrapping, I need to just double check I've got this actually going around this screw head properly. But just tuck that under a little bit and redo this. It's always worth double checking. No one's right first time. I've done this many times, and I always have to double check myself. So I'm going to trim these loose ends. You don't need to be perfectly close, but it's certainly got to be close enough that there's no risk that these little bits or any old wire bits could possibly connect between this point and this point, because that at the end of the day is where the volts are going to go through, all the current. So again, I can see it, but I'm going to shine my light in there just to hopefully let the camera catch a glimpse of that. But I can see a shining 5 amp fuse wire in there, and I'm sure I've just blinded everybody, but that's a job that's done. I can now put that in place, get my lights working again. Just to quickly go through, this is a 5 amp light fuse, typically a 15 amp wire, the much medium-sized thickness here is for immersion heaters, maybe shower units, etc. This much fatter one is the 30 amp. This is for typically electric cookers, a ring main, so a whole floor in a house in the UK is typically covered by a 30 amp fuse, so you have all your units in the walls, etc. So this is only a 5 amp fuse. The most fiddliest is quite fine, very flimsy wire, but it's done now. And I'm going to go back in the kitchen with my fuse box cover, my 5 amp fuse, and I'm going to put it all back in together. Okay, I hope that helped. Yes, nowadays, by the way, just to end, these aren't that commonplace nowadays. You normally have units that are able to auto be reset. So some of them actually have a sort of cutout feature, and you've got a little switch in the front. So these aren't so commonplace nowadays, but they were very common in the UK, and this old house still has them. Hope that helps.